Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Yusuf Aram. Israeli strikes in and around Gaza have continued despite the ceasefire, while much of the critical aid remains stalled. On paper, the war ended last September. On the ground, uncertainty is growing over whether Trump's ceasefire plan will move to its next phase. And in Tel Aviv, Netanyahu's working to line up support at home and abroad to renew confrontations with Hezbollah and Iran, even as Israel heads towards elections later this year. Let's go to Safi Amri with this report.
Gaza is drowning in rain as an uneasy ceasefire brings an end to daily bombings from Israel, but not relief on the ground. The year ahead will still be shaped by the war. Many in Gaza remain homeless, and Palestinians in the West Bank still fear losing theirs. Two parallel strategies are now in motion. Netanyahu paid his sixth visit to Trump this year on December 28th, but the two leaders were vague on details of their meeting. One strategy is the Trump-brokered ceasefire, still fragile and largely stalled. The other is Netanyahu's push to secure new allies and project strength. Analysts warn this could lay the groundwork for renewed conflict with Hezbollah in Lebanon and a second round with Iran, which Trump has promised to support if Tehran moves to develop new weapons. Israel has strengthened relations with Central Asian countries, such as Kazakhstan, through the Abraham Accords signed in November. It has also deepened ties with Azerbaijan, which shares a critical border with Iran. Farther in Africa, Israel has moved to recognize Somaliland, sparking outrage from all sides. Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud met President Erdogan in Ankara on December 30th, seeking Turkish support to block the recognition.
The unity of Somalia is our priority. Israel's decision to recognize the independence of Somaliland is illegitimate and unacceptable.
Israel cites security needs, but many see a bid for a foothold near the Red Sea against Yemen's Houthis. Closer to home, the landscape in Syria has shifted. With Assad gone and the 1974 ceasefire repeatedly breached, new de-escalation talks are under discussion, but they come with costs for Syria. Israel is pressing for a long-term demilitarized buffer zone inside Syrian territory, possibly extending toward Damascus. For Netanyahu's plan to move forward, one thing still matters: winning re-election. Israelis head to the polls in October amid deep divisions and uncertainty, with a government many see as weakened by the Gaza war. Netanyahu remains on trial for corruption, and critics say his political survival now looms large over Israel's choices on war and peace. Looking ahead to 2026, the path remains clouded by profound uncertainty. The international recognition of a Palestinian state now collides with the grim facts on the ground. As the world watches, a pressing question emerges. Will the coming year bring a decisive shift toward peace, or merely a deeper entrenchment of the conflict? Safiya Amri, Straight Talk.
For more, joining me now from Paris is Salman Shaikh. He's the founder and CEO of the Shaikh Group. From Istanbul, Hazar Vural, she's an assistant professor at Istanbul Aydin University. And from Doha, Fadel Abdulghany, he's the executive director of the Syrian network. My expert panel, thanks for joining me. I mean, 2025 was a very eventful year: the good, the bad, the ugly, the optimism from Syria, the tragedy in Gaza, and trying to make sense of everything. But today, I want to look forward to 2026. What can we expect from the new year? Will it be a good year? Will it be one of continued tragedy, concern, or optimism? So, Salman, I want to begin with you. A very big presser yesterday between U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I think there were a lot of Easter eggs at that presser on what we could expect from the year ahead, at least from the United States in the region. And what were your thoughts? What stood out there, and what clues do you think Trump gave us on what to expect?
Well, it's good to be joining you with the other guests, Yusuf. Look, we hope that we're going to have a break from the past, as you said, and certainly this past year. But we may actually get more of the same, where Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, especially as he seeks re-election, continues a sort of a perma state of conflict in Gaza, in the West Bank, but also in the neighborhood, which could extend now further and further into the Horn of Africa, or to continue and intensify that as well. So I think there's a big question here. Are we talking about an international system which is based on the rule of law, which is based on sovereign states, or are we talking about the further fragmentation, very much dictated by the momentum that Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel think that they have created? A lot of that will depend on, as you just said, on President Trump. Huge achievement that we did get some sort of a ceasefire, but we still not moved on to phase two, and more than 400 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza. So a lot will rest on what Trump does. Now, yesterday's press conference didn't fill me with hope. It seems like that Trump is going to have to manage escalation rather than move us into a situation where a real peace is possible.
Hazar, I think one of the other issues that was discussed yesterday was stabilization force. It looks like Trump is very keen on having the Turks as part of that force. It looks like Netanyahu is very keen on sidelining the Turks and not having them in Gaza. How do you think that's going to play out? Whose will is going to win? Is it going to be Trump and Erdogan getting what they want, or is it going to be Netanyahu getting what he wants?
We know the special relationship between Tel Aviv and Washington, so their interests are overlapping in this broader region. So we know that personally Netanyahu or his government, or in general, Israelis never want to see the Turkish forces in Palestine. So we know that it is not easy to succeed this. But naturally, if you will check the policies of Türkiye toward the Palestinian or Gazan genocide war, Türkiye, since the beginning, is the first state in the whole world who is keeping the topic up on the table, and in all international organization meetings, Türkiye is never forget this topic. So we are so experienced enough. We wish to do this. We want to be there because we know that the only thing that can stop Israelis to make the same genocide or same violence is a real power in the territory, in the soil. But let me add this. Actually, what we're going to see in 2026, I think the continuation of what we lived in this year or in last year, because the grand strategy of Israel didn't complete it yet. I agree with our colleague that yesterday we realized that with the press conference, their agenda is full and they want to complete their mission. And this threatened the Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, and most of the states in the close region.
Fadel, as Salman mentioned before, the ceasefire deal was a positive, but not being able to move to phase two, obviously, a negative. Do you foresee phase two being rolled out anytime in the near future? And also regarding phase two, I mean, what needs to be done to get to that point?
I prefer to use the word manipulation. Israel is manipulating, and so that I don't think that we will notice a real progress towards stabilization in the region in 2026. Unfortunately, Israel is actually don't want to reoccupy it, but trying to export the problem. And that was obvious to make the governance and the security responsible to the international community and the Arab region. Of course, the Security Council Resolution 2803 want this to be end, and expecting that international stability force to be exist, including and that was obviously, and I agree with my colleague from Turkey, that Ankara want to engage, and that was obvious from the foreign ministry statement that Ankara willing to hold any responsibility, including sending troops if the peace required that. But the thing is, Israel don't want any stability. 2 days ago, we noticed that Israel recognized the Somaliland. This is the Arab backyard. And in spite of all condemnation from all around the world, including the US, Israel proceed with that. If we want to shift what Israel is expanding this manipulation, and also at the same time building on what has been exist before Gaza being destroyed and genocide, and also a permanent, I think, occupation in Syria, and this will be expanded. Israel is doing whatever want in Syria, including invasion in Syria, kidnapping Syrian citizens, arrest them or kidnap them, investigate with them, and return. So Israel is doing whatever she wants, and I don't think Trump policy will pressure Israel to prevent, but rather than to contain. That is what I noticed yesterday from the press conference.
Mm-hmm. You know, the recognition of Somaliland by Israel was definitely unexpected. I mean, I didn't have that on my 2025 bingo card, but moving ahead, obviously East Africa, very complicated powder keg of a region. I think one of the major accomplishments of 2025 was the peace understanding, the peace deal between Somalia and Ethiopia. Now it looks like Israel introduced a potential destabilizing factor or issue back into that region by empowering or recognizing the breakaway Somaliland. I mean, Salman, what's your thoughts on this, and what can we expect in 2026 from East Africa?
I have one main thought, and it's a question. Who are the state builders in this region? And who are the state destroyers and fragmenters? And of the latter, why are they doing it? Well, they're pursuing very narrow interests. And I'm afraid Israel is state number one in acting as a state destroyer, because fragmentation suits it and its interests. Now, with regards to Somaliland, in fact, I have a colleague in Somaliland right now talking to the various parties, and in Somalia. It's a situation whereby which Israel again is acting on its narrow interests, thinking that it can perhaps deal with the Houthi threat across the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. But this is not the way to do it. And trying to re-engineer an entire region through these kind of narrow interests, perhaps aided and supported by others in the region, including in the Gulf, is only going to lead to greater dangers in 2026. And President Trump is going to be required to clean up the mess that Benjamin Netanyahu sows with perhaps other allies in this region. No, we've got to get back to state building. We've got to get back to agency of the people themselves in the region, in those countries and states themselves. In the case of Somalia, there has to be this deep dialogue between Somalis, whether in Somaliland or in Somalia more broadly. And the kind of things that we saw Türkiye mediate in terms of that Ethiopia-Somalia agreement. And here I think there is a special role for Türkiye, there's a special role for Qatar, there's a special role for Saudi Arabia, amongst others, in trying to not just build stability, but build deeper dialogue, and to convince President Trump and the US administration that this is the way to go, not the path of state fragmentation and destruction in the region.
Mm-hmm. Hazar, the Turks have had at least 15 years of investment ever since that 2011 visit by Erdogan to Mogadishu, right when the famine in Somalia was probably at its worst, and no one was really visiting Somalia, and Erdogan being a world leader visiting there, quite a lot of headlines from that trip. Now, they've been invested in that region for 15 years. They played a very important role in the Ethiopia-Somalia agreement going forward. And now with recognition of the breakaway Somaliland, as I said before, a potential powder keg. And Salman said that there could be a huge mess. Trump might have to clean it up. I think if it does turn into a mess, Erdogan's going to need to get his geopolitical mop out as well. What type of role will Turkey have in 2026, and what could potentially happen in East Africa?
Actually, before skipping to Turkey, we should emphasize that this topic is related with the international system and the norms and the United Nations regime. When Israel is the first state who recognized Somaliland, as you said, as a surprise, we shouldn't think this the geopolitical confrontation or the hegemonic war between the hegemon actors. Because right now, if you will focus on how Bab el-Mandeb Strait is important, or in the international trade routes, or the Houthis in Yemen, and what is the meaning of Houthis in the eyes of Israel. So actually, this is not an innocent thing which is done by Israel, which could be understandable in the eyes of international relations, because the interests of the state speaks in the end. But as you said, since so many years, Turkey did a lot for Mogadishu in the first hand, and we have there an education military bases and lots of ties with this important part of the African Horn. But if you will focus on the American interests and the security of Israel, actually, once again, Israel is destroying the international system. Actually, 2025 is a time that it teaches us we cannot speak about the norms. We cannot speak about international law because it is missing. So the system is in a crisis for so long, and such kind of attempts will bring us to much more bad examples in the all region or in the other parts of the world too. So everybody is criticizing Israel because it is not acceptable, and what we are observing will bring the region not peace, not welfare, actually much more crisis in the first hand.
Mm-hmm. I want to jump over to Syria now. I mean, new president, Ahmed al-Shara, Trump says he's a good guy. We need to give him a chance. Syrian people probably the most optimistic looking into 2026 as they're hoping to rebuild, reorganize, restructure the country, and probably have the most reason for optimism out of the countries in the region, with so much that could happen in 2026, but also a lot of question marks. A rivalry between Türkiye and Israel, obviously Israeli airstrikes. What will US policy be? What will EU policy be? Iran, a question mark. Fadel, what are your expectations for 2026?
I think it will be a better year for Syria. For sure, there is a huge challenging facing Syria, as you mentioned. I think the biggest and the most complicated challenging is Israel, the outside challenging. The inside challenging is two issues. The first one, the economic one. The second one is the transitional justice and how we can solve this dilemma between the Alawite community, which is the vast majorities of the Alawite, or the vast perpetrator, is from the Alawite community. And we need to make this distinction between the perpetrator from the Alawite and the Alawite community themselves. Also, we are facing SDF, also dilemma as well. This is a huge confrontation, and especially that they are seizing a huge territory still inside Syria. Also, there is also Al-Suwaida and the Israel engaging, and the New York Times report was obvious that this engagement with Druze in Al-Suwaida from Israel prior to the conflict and the clashes happened in June. So after 9 years, Israel directly communicate and start providing weapons. That showing how much Benjamin Netanyahu, extreme far right, afraid from stability in Syria, and they want Syria to be unstable. I think also Syria will improve, and it's improved, but without Arab and regional support and the international community, I think Syria will fail again. I didn't notice. I met with a lot of ambassadors. I didn't notice a real support financially and logistically to make the Syria optimistic and success in 2026. I hope this might change. There is an indication. Left sanction is one of them. It's not enough. I think the new government prefer for sure the Arab and the Turkish support because they stood beside the Syrian people past 14 years. Iran no longer exists or dream to be exist in Syria. Still, they have engagement with the SDF, providing weapons and logistic. Also, they and that was odd that Israel, the enemies, and the Iran from the other side, both they want Syria unstable and they interfere in different ways. And also, the Washington Post report was clearly that Iran is connecting and providing weapons to some Alawite in order to reorganize them, some Alawite fighters to reorganize themselves in order to have this unstable situation in Syria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like Iran's definitely going to remain a major theme for the Middle East in 2026. Salman, when we were looking at the Trump-Netanyahu presser, Trump seemed to be very decisive. If it looks like Iran is rearming, we'll strike them very quickly. That was the message. Will that be the case? I mean, will the U.S. be very trigger happy to be able to appease Netanyahu by striking Iran? Or will Netanyahu be able to drag the United States into a full-blown war with Iran in 2026?
Well, there's always the danger. Netanyahu's already done that with Trump. But Trump has to look two ways. He has to look, of course, towards Israel and Iran itself, but he also has to look at within his own base and the MAGA base. As we've seen, this past year, there's been a feature where there has been real cracks developing between the America First MAGA base that he has and those who still feel that we have to be having an ironclad relationship with Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu's now invited President Trump to receive his Israel Peace Prize in April. It's going to be a very interesting time because this will be a prelude to both the midterm elections in the United States in November and the possible Israeli elections even earlier than that, which have to be, I believe, before October. So this whole idea of getting yourself further enmeshed in the Middle East war, particularly against Iran, I think is fraught for danger for President Trump domestically. And I think, again, it would be wise if we pursue a policy of dialogue and of real active diplomacy. Trump has shown that he's willing to act to the Iranian leadership. I hope that there is a way found in which for a serious diplomatic dialogue to actually lead to results, particularly on the nuclear issue. When it comes to missiles, well, Iran probably would say it has the right to defend itself. And I'm sure there are many in the region who are uncomfortable with Iran's missile technology, but that will only continue to develop, I believe, despite whatever hits it takes. So the path of dialogue led by, again, Saudi Arabia in the region and others, Oman, Turkey, Qatar and others, is going to be, I think, vitally important. And I think it's more important that President Trump listens to them than to any further immersion into another round of conflict with Iran.
Hazar, I think one of the big question marks, especially towards the end of the year, and it seems to be growing in tension, is the rivalry between Türkiye and Israel. 2026, will we see this spill over into a clash in Syria, a direct engagement between the two countries, or will it just be manageable rhetoric escalation?
Turkey and Israel face off in Syria since 1 year, we can easily say. There is expansionist policies of Israel in the third region. And when Israel is bombing or threatening the Turkey's neighbors, it is Syria, it is Iran, or in the broader region when it comes to Palestine or even Lebanon, because we cannot say that this is not affecting the region. We cannot accept or we cannot normalize what Israel is doing. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs said it very clear that the expansionist policies of Israel is bringing not any good days to region. So Turkey is against it. But yesterday in the press conference, once again, Donald Trump repeated one thing, because Turkey and United States is in the same security pact. So United States never let Tel Aviv and Ankara confront each other with a hard power. So this mission belongs to United States. They should find a balance between the two partners of United States. Of course, Tel Aviv is a very special partner, but Turkey is an independent state. So we can say that the policies of Turkey, for example, terror-free Turkey and terror-free region, it is not something that Israel want. Israel want to divide Syria. Israel want to erase Tehran regime. Israel want to change all the maps in the broader region, especially we can say from Morocco to Somaliland to Kazakhstan. They want to control every state. So how can we live in a world like this? And it is against the international system and international law. We should protect the sovereignty of the states. And one more sentence for the missiles of Iran. Yesterday in the press conference, Trump says and repeat once again, if they will stand up once again, recuperate their missile issues or nuclear issues, we will be together with Israel, and once again, we will do what we should do. So we are waiting the second stage of the Israel and United States war toward Iran, unfortunately, in 2026.
Mm-hmm. Hazar, you got me pessimistic now. I was hoping that 2026 was going to be a better year. We're running out of time, but before I say goodbye, very, very quickly, I want to get a quick take from the three of you. Fadel, beginning with you, 2026, what do you think the most important theme or potential event will be for the region?
I hope that, we are talking about Israel, Turkey. Where is the Arab role? I hope that Arab role increase and take care about themselves.
The Arab role in the region for you. Very quickly, Salman, 2026, most important theme or potential event?
Well, who can turn President Trump? It's a big question. And I agree with Fadel. Even though President Erdogan, Emir Tamim, as well as the leaderships in other states have made a big impact from the Arab and Muslim world, it's not enough.
I have to move on to Hazar. I want to hear your take. What is the most important theme for 2026?
I want to be optimistic like you, but endless wars era. We are right now living in lots of armament increasing, but we will be insist for diplomacy because this is the characteristics of the Turkish Republic.
Okay, 2026 made diplomacy prevail. My thoughts is I think Israeli elections will be very, very important in its outcome. I want to thank all three of you for joining me. See you soon. And that's all for this edition of Straight Talk with me, Yusuf Aram. If you got any comments, please share them with us on X at Straight Talk TRT. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can find more exclusive content. Until next time, take care and goodbye.